Welcome back.
Welcome back, everybody. Hopefully you have been following us. You are subscribed to the channel. You are liking our episodes. You're sharing our episodes, and hopefully leaving us some comments of what mostly resonated with you. As always, we're super excited to get back into the studio and talk about things that we see trending and things that are important to us right now. Mm-hmm. So our topic for today is things that we wish someone had told us before getting married. Boom. Okay. So, and even if you're not married and you're like, this doesn't apply to me, listen, go get your notebook and start taking notes, because there's things that I personally wish somebody had told me before getting married, either the times that I did, and I'm sure Christina may have some perspectives, and, so just listen up. So for me, some of the things that I wish that somebody had told me before getting married is that the spark goes away. And then what to do when that happens. Mm-hmm. Like the first time I didn't want to get married, so I'm going to start there. I was like, and I should have listened. But like once I was already married, like I didn't know that things change. I didn't know that things can become very routine, and all, like people don't talk about that like in movies. All you hear is oh my God, we're in love and happily ever after. Mm-hmm. Nobody talks about like after the wedding day or after like a year of the honeymoon is over, like what happens, the realities you have to face. So that's some of the things that I think, not taking away the beauty of marriage or the beauty of love and relationships, but reality really hits after you're married after a while, and then like what to do with that. And how do you prepare before that? I'm wondering for those that are listening, like, what did you do before you get married to prepare you to have a lasting marriage? And, did anybody tell you, like, it was gonna get boring, that your person was gonna stop trying, that they were gonna stop dating you, that now it's like, listen, we're married, let's just move forward. So that's one of the things I think for me that stands out the most, was that once the spark goes away, what happens? Mm-hmm. What about you? Anything. I mean, maybe it's not this. Something else. Like
no. I laugh only because I never was really like that girl who even thought I wanted to be married, and it's so interesting because I laugh because I try to talk myself out of getting married several times, and then it was also because I feel like I never witnessed a marriage that I ever wanted. Mm-hmm. So I think that's the hard part. I think as we're seeing right now that data is coming out, and like the rate of marriages and even having children for certain generations of folks is much lower than it has historically ever been. And I seen on TikTok, and I mean, somehow the algorithm be showing me all kinds of stuff, but it's talking about, especially now, like people in their 40s are getting, divorced at a higher rate as well. And I think it's one of those things that I think before you do anything, you have to ask yourself, do you just want a wedding or do you really want to be married? Because to your earlier comment, I think being married can be a beautiful thing. I'm not against marriage in any sense. I just knew for me personally, it wasn't anything I ever aspired to have. And I think that many young girls, the fairy tales, like the Disney princesses, you wait for your prince and you have this magical wedding, but to your point, there was never really conversation about like how to have a good marriage, or in understanding that everyday marriage is not great. You may not like the person you married every single day, but do you honor them still? Do you respect them? Do you value them? And those are things that I think marriage can be transitional in terms of there might be periods of time where you don't necessarily see eye to eye with your person. But at the end of the day, how I believe if you married the right person, or you are considering marrying a person, what you should consider prior to doing that is, like, if you find yourself in those days where you may not like that person, you may not love that person in the same intensity that you do right now, do you still honor them? Can you still be around them? Do you still have respect for them? And if you find yourself not being able to say that with your whole chest, then that might be something to really consider before like making it official, because having the wedding is the top, that's like, the big party, the big celebration. Having a marriage is in theory, it's supposed to be a lifelong commitment. And I think there are just seasons of marriages that, you have your high moments, you have your harder moments. But at the end of the day, if this is somebody that you really can see yourself with through, regardless of what's happening around you, especially when you have children or if you're taking care of aging parents or whatever the added pressures of being in a relationship can cause, it's just a person you can still, respect and want to be around.
Yes. And I think it's also a choice. So love is a feeling, right? But marriage is a daily decision. So like you feel love today, like you mentioned. You may not feel so much love tomorrow, but if you are married or you're in a relationship, that is a daily decision because you can decide at any minute to end it. But if you are in it for the long haul, that you and your partner will have to decide daily, like, we're going to do this, right? And that is something that before you go into that, you have to make that commitment. And hopefully your partner, together you should. Like, listen, I'm not going to love you every day. I'm not going to like you every day. But we're going to choose to be there. We're going to choose our marriage every day. Another one for me was ignoring the red flags. So don't ignore the red flags because you feel chemistry and you feel so excited. Because there's things that are shown to you. And then you're like, nah, like, we're so in love. That is a little thing, but that is a big thing. Usually the things, I also learned this, the things that you ignore in the beginning that you don't think are a huge deal are the things that sometimes you end up leaving the person for. Because you then, once the chemistry or the excitement is down, then you start seeing things very clearly and you're like, oh, that is definitely not okay. Like, that is not something I can live with. So in the process of getting to know somebody, as I'm learning, is really take the time to like really see the thing. And like, if there's something that you feel, because your gut tells you, that's uneasy, like really explore the feeling of not feeling easy about that. And like, what does that mean? And what does that mean to my values? And how is that really, like, how does that really, in 10 years, would this matter? If this continues to happen, would I be okay with that, right?
Yeah.
Because sometimes we think it's going to change, and it's not going to change.
Yeah. And what I've read, too, a lot of marriages don't last long, usually around some core areas. Finances tend to be a top thing. So being able to spend some time really having conversations about what do finances look like for you as a couple. Is there a certain, number that you both are committed to in terms of, how you're going to manage your finances? Because I believe that's some of the hardest, like, additional stress to a marriage is if one person has a mindset very specific about, okay, how much money do we need? How much money or should we be spending? Because the biggest thing I think folks don't fully understand, and what I have found with some of my friends who were also married at one point who are no longer married that have shared with me, is just, for many of them, they were so independent for so long. Like, they made all their own decisions. They moved how they wanted to move. They had their own separate accounts. And then what it suddenly became like they had to consult with somebody every single decision. It felt like almost intrusive in a way. Like, why do I need to check with this person about X, Y, and Z? And it's kind of like, well, you've merged your companies now.
Right. This is a merger.
This is a merger. Marriage, even though it has all these beautiful elements that we've talked about, but it's also there's a business aspect to it. You are merging. Their debt is now your debt. How they move and operate affects you in one way or another. And so I think finances tend to be a big one. Religion is also another one that I've heard very differently by just articles I've read. So those are some of the things that you want to have those conversations to the best of your ability, in hopes that the person you are with is not, being a character that you still haven't quite unmasked until after you've been married. As you've mentioned, Maylin, I think oftentimes, no matter how big the mask is, you tend to see certain flags through, for sure, that you are overlooking or you're just like making excuses for it. Because, typically, not saying people can't evolve and change. I've seen people who have evolved and changed as part of the marriage. But I think the big piece of it is at what cost? Did one of the individuals in that marriage have to give so much more of themselves to help that person, reach that level of like who they could be, but also what was the cost to you as an individual and to your marriage ultimately?
Yeah. And then making sure that you align in your values, not just your interests. Because I could like, reggaeton and you can like reggaeton, but your values, like you don't appreciate people, you don't like giving back, you don't think that service it's something that has honor, like you think it's stupid. You know what I'm saying? Like there's those kind of things. I remember dating somebody that thought that volunteering was just crazy. And like, I don't understand, how do you volunteer your time for free? Like, what exactly is that? And I remember thinking, oh, you never experienced that. Like, you never done something if it wasn't for money. So this is foreign to you, which I, now looking back, had I really given the time to think about that, no matter what I do, which in my mind is purpose fulfilling, you're going to think it's a waste of time and therefore you're not going to support it. So those kinds of things that are important to you and that are valuable to you, you got to have that conversation and not be shy about it. And then just see how the person feels. And if the person disagrees, it's okay. Like it's totally okay for them to not agree with you, not to have your same values, but you get to decide if you want to go into a relationship, a long-term relationship with this person, because they're telling you exactly how they feel about the things that matter to you.
Yeah.
And then you cannot sugarcoat it. Like, this is how they feel.
Yeah.
Like Angela always say, like, if somebody shows you who they are, like, believe them the first time. For some of us, we like to hear it a couple times because the first time just probably was a mistake. But no, they're being really real about how they do it. Another thing that people should really pay attention, I believe, is, I suggest that you do, is how people react to certain things. So how do they react when they lose something? How do they handle conflict? Do they use substances to kind of like cope with that? Or do they go for a walk? Or do they have to leave? So like, how do people cope with conflict? How do they cope with like issues with money? How do they cope when they lose something? How do they cope when they win something and now they think they're like grand, So for me, I really didn't think about that until like years after, like, oh, I should really have paid attention of how someone acted when they accomplished something big. Because then if their ego is bigger than their person, then you could have seen that. And then you could see like, what's going to happen when this person get into a lot of money? Are they going to think I'm less? Are they going to discard my thoughts and my opinions? So, and the opposite, when they lose something, does the whole world ends? Do they like now slash at you? They slash at everybody? That's important. That's why people recommend it to me. I had that thought. I ignore it many times. I'm going back to it, guys. 4 seasons. You got to give somebody at least 4 seasons to really get to know how they react. Because in a month or 2 or 3, 90 days is not enough. Like that's still, the mask is really fully on still. And for some people, I don't think they do it intentionally to have like a mask on. I think they are really trying to put, like, you're going on an interview, your best foot forward because you want to be liked, you want to be accepted. You're afraid that whoever you are, the person may not really like. So you're trying to be like your best. But by doing that, then you are not showing your true self.
Right.
And it's just, I hope that whoever I date in the future has really like big things happening throughout like the time, because that really will show me like who you are.
Yeah.
And for me, I want to be who I am. Like when I meet you, ask me a question, I'm going to tell you like, this is what it is.
Yeah.
I'm either struggling with this or I'm trying to overcome this. I'm trying to do this. I'm not sugarcoating where I am, because I think if you like me, you gotta like me as I am, as I'm evolving.
Right.
And if you don't choose that, that's okay. But at least you know.
Yeah.
You're not coming in here thinking I got it all together when I really don't.
Yeah. No, that's valid. And I think that, and I think it's also okay, to your point, if you are able to be fully transparent with the person you're with, and you still have challenges, I think it's normal. I think that's one of those things that no relationship is perfect. And I think Instagram and social media and the movies, right? You think about the movies, as you mentioned earlier, there's always been this, poetic aspect of relationships in general, which I believe is important. I think it's critically important to make sure that the person you're with, that you constantly are validating them, not necessarily in a superficial way, but it's more so like, if you're with a person, be with a person, like the same things that attracted you to that person. It's important that you continue to cultivate that. It doesn't have to always be a grand gesture. I think that now there's this added pressure where you feel like you have to make all these grand gestures all the time. And Now, depending on who you're with, because I've seen people who are both very materialistic in that, can be materialistic in that way where, you know, he buys her Dior, she's buying him a car. Like, I mean, there are people out
The
here.
competition is real.
Yeah, like they love that. And I think that's if that's your person and that's who you are, then that's okay. But for other people who are like, I don't need all that all the time, I think it's more of just figuring out what's important to the person you're with. Is it time? Is it, you know, experiences? Like, what is it? And making, as we do make all these other things a priority, our jobs, our day-to-day lives, like, even if that means you have to schedule it on your calendar, like, okay, I need to send this person a message or send a flower or, you know, fix the bed or do the laundry, like simple things that you might think are minute, but it'd be like, oh, now I don't have to come home and think about these things, especially if you're already in a space where you're living together and you're not, I mean, whether you're married or not married, if you're already living with a person, it's really, really important to just not get comfortable with the everyday routine. Like, just because we've been together, that don't mean that person that's going to be their jam every single day. I think as you grow as a human being, like who you were when you first started in that relationship, ideally shouldn't be the same person you are, right? Like 5, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, like you're not with the same person you met 15 years ago. So it's important that if you are going to be in a relationship, that you're learning this person as you continue to grow, and you're being mindful and intentional about showing, you know, expressing appreciation, gratitude, and love for the person they're evolving into. And I believe you should be also reciprocating, like you should be also receiving that. So it shouldn't just be one-sided. I know there's a lot of energy around like women are the prize. Like, yeah, we are. However, I think it's also important for you to value your significant other, you know, so figuring out what does he like to do? Where does he like to eat? What are things that also make him feel special? Because I think there's a lot of misconception that only women are supposed to feel this way. And I think, yeah, we're women, you know, but certainly I think it's important to also prioritize doing things that make your significant other feel equally special.
Yes. And either when you're starting or when you're thinking, because when you're starting, you're getting to know the person. I think now this is a good time to get to know somebody, like let's say even as a friend. And then maybe that will evolve. Like you're dating somebody, like, are you really cool? Let's see if they go somewhere else. I would suggest, or something that I'm planning to do, is really get to know like their personalities, because people's personalities now with all these tools that we have is so interesting, because you will be dating someone that you think is dry, and literally that's like their personality trait. Like they actually are really probably fun and they're great, but there's certain times when they communicate that they use this, you know, maybe they're, you know, analytical, like, so kind of figuring out like what personality somebody is, and then you sharing yours. So when you are communicating, you guys are using the tools that you have. So then the communication could be more clear, more efficient, and I think even more fruitful. Same thing, like, what is your love language? A lot of people make the mistake to assume that they're giving somebody what they think that person wants, because they feel like it's practical. So if you're a provider, you're like, listen, I'm providing everything for this woman. I'm giving her, I'm paying for the house, I'm paying for this, I'm doing this, I'm working really hard. And she's not happy because what she wanted was a date night. What she really wanted to feel like she's loved and validated is a date night that you plan and you surprise her with. But you didn't think about that because in your mind, you're doing everything else. It doesn't disvalidate like what you're doing. But I think if you really care about somebody, whether it be a man or a woman, find out what this person really likes, like what they really love, what really moves them, what makes them feel like they're loved. Because the way you think you're loving them may not be how they want to be loved. And you're doing all this hard work, like you're doing all these grand gestures, and really they wanted something small. Maybe they wanted a separate thing. So my suggestion is find out what their personality traits are. So there's a lot of tools right now. And then also figure out what their love language is. And also touch that a few times throughout like your time together, because that will change. Like my love languages when I was 20 is totally different than my love language in my 30s. And by the love of God, is so different now in my 40s because of where I am in my life. So I never assume now, like what somebody wants. I either observe how they love other people or how they love me. And then I also ask, like, what makes you feel love? Like, what makes you feel like I care? And then you can take note of that.
Right.
So that would be my thing for people to help it make better.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. And I think that, you know, don't be in a rush just to be in a relationship either.
To be chosen.
Yeah, it's just
to choose.
And I don't feel like that's the vibe or the energy I'm feeling anymore. Like I feel like that was a big thing when we were younger. But a lot of the women I'm meeting now, they're like, listen, I'm cool with just being me, doing me. But those that are married and, they seem to be figuring it out, I think, that's also a beautiful thing. So certainly we're not against marriage.
Absolutely not.
Or, obviously I'm still married at the moment. So, definitely. I tell Ken every day, I said, listen.
Every day's a decision. Every day's a decision.
Every day is a decision.
Yeah.
But he's a great guy and I've known him over 20 years. And certainly, as you get older, you just, your lives change. And sometimes they change in different directions. Sometimes, you just might need a reroute. But I think it's...
Or a reset.
But I think you have to be honest about those things because being married and still being, in I've seen people be in marriages and still be alone. I've seen people be in marriages and be completely unhappy. And it's like, girl...
Yes, why? Why? Because, so that's not what we're saying.
Yeah, that's not what we're saying. Like, don't do that, you know?
We're not saying, stay if you're suffering. Don't do that. We don't believe in abuse. We don't believe in none of that. But there is an opportunity to evaluate. I think people should really take a hard look at evaluating their relationship.
Right.
And evaluate who you are in this relationship. How are you showing up in this relationship? And then how is your person showing up in this relationship? Right. And then you two really have to figure out what you want. What exactly do you want? Are you able to give each other what you want?
Right.
And if you're not, be honest. Be 100%, because you don't have to.
Yeah.
Be honest. If you're not choosing each other the way that each one of you wants to be chosen, then you really shouldn't be together.
No.
Because you're making everybody unhappy.
And you're just adding so much more stress to your life.
And trauma.
For what, and especially if you have children, I think it's important to have as many check-ins as possible because a lot of that trauma, you think you're staying together for the kids and the kids would be actually happier and probably less tense in your household. Not to say to break up your home. I'm saying if you're not going to address what the real root is or if the real root really can't be solved, oftentimes I think there's a misconception that okay, we have to pull through for the kids. And I'm not saying it's not a bad thing because I can see logistically when you have children how much more complicated it is when you're trying to parent in two different households. And, it does make it much more complicated. But I think from just a social emotional perspective, you think your kids don't know what's going on and they know exactly what's going on. And they may not be able to fully articulate it, at a younger age, but as they get older, they peep what's happening. And I peeped what was happening in my parents' marriage, probably around third grade. And I just was shaking my head I hope she figures this out. It's sad because you also, these are your parents, right? Yes. And you grow up watching all these shows. And you're like, why can't we be happy life? This, you just, and it just is not, that's just not always the case for everybody. So if you do have that, I think that's a beautiful thing. And certainly figuring out how you continue to cultivate that. But if you don't, it can cause more stress and harm to your children ultimately.
And I think being honest, when you made the decision to, let's say that you're staying because of the kids, you made the decision because that's what you said it was because of the kids. But I think you need to be honest and make that that was a financial decision, not because of the kids' decision. Because I remember growing up and hearing I stay because of you guys, because and for a while I felt guilty. I'm like, dang, if I wasn't here, maybe she wouldn't have had to suffer. And I'm like, no, she made a choice. I'm like, wait a minute. And it took me a while to get to the point of releasing myself from that guilt.
Right.
Because parents say it in a very loving way. They think, right? Well, no, I stay and took hell for you. And I was like, God dang, I'm a fault for all of this pain that was caused. And I'm not. So if you're in that situation where your parents have said that, forgive them because they're using the best words that they can. But as parents, if you are in the situation, really be clear about why you're staying. Because you're not staying because of the kids. You're staying because it is logistically uncomfortable. Because you don't have the money means to get out and get a babysitter or whatever the case may be. Because I know for me, when I had to make the decision, it was really difficult. And it was really easy to be I could just stay because of the kid. That's coming. And then I was like, no, you're going to have to go the harder route and do this alone.
Yeah.
Because I don't want the trauma that I came in to be where Jaira comes in, right? So, but that was, I remember thinking like, what are you about to do?
Right.
And then if I stay with that person, I would have had to say, well, I stay because of Jaira, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? So I feel like I was, at that moment, I understood my mother deeply, but I also understood that I had a choice. And I will have to choose the hard choice.
Yeah.
But it was, at the end of the day, a choice.
Do you think that was the right choice?
I do.
Okay.
I do, because it would not have been healthy. You know what I mean? Like, and then the aftermath still shows me that it was definitely the right choice.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, is it a hard? Yes.
Right.
Jesus, so hard. But it was it was definitely the best
Right
choice. So for anybody going through that too, like, yes, if you're making a decision, be clear with yourself of why you're making it. Don't put the kids in there. They didn't choose this.
Don't blame us.
We didn't choose this. Okay, you chose that.
Like, girl, that's you chose my dad. I didn't choose him.
Okay, respectfully, you know, with all the respect to the fathers.
Yeah, we love y'all.
But now is like, if you're in that situation, then what? If you want to get out and you found that there's no other way, then what do you have to do to get ready for that? Like, get ready for that. There's ways, there's things to do that. But then if you're gonna stay, then stay in a healthy way. Like, I never tell people, like, leave. I'm the one that's like, did you try everything?
Maylin, that's why I was actually laughing when you came up with this. You wanted to talk about this today.
Yes.
Because what I love about you is that you are so like, did we try everything possible? And I think that that's important because you can be very like almost reactional. It's like, oh, I'm doing all this right now. And what I love about you is you, because of all the experiences, I think too, it's like, hold on, before you act, before you react, like, did you think about this? Did you try this? Well, what about that? Did you have this conversation? Because you never want to be in a situation where you are abrupt to do something and either A, you end up losing more than you should have lost, or B, you know, because you're impulsive, and, you know, and I think that many of us are impulsive. I'm not as impulsive as I used to be in my 20s. In my 20s, I was very impulsive. Now I'm a little more, you know, calculated, and I take my time with things. But you have always been very big on, are you sure about any of the things? Because you never want to also be in a situation where you do make that impulsive decision and then you look back and you're like, damn, I didn't really try everything.
Yeah. And I remember for some of my situations, I really tried. Like,
yeah, you did.
I gave it like, even with my last situation, I was like, listen, I'm going to give you one more chance. Like, I know it's crazy, but I'm going to give you one more chance because I truly believe people can really change, right? And the chance was revoked in 24 hours. You know what I'm saying? Like, the chance was given today, in 24 hours that chance was revoked. But it was revoked by the person. You know what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't revoked by me. It was just like the person really came to terms like, I'm not gonna be good.
When we're done filming this, I have to tell you something that comes to my mind when you just say that, because I remember something that happened. I was like, how dare you? So we'll talk about it offline.
So yeah, so you know, so in summary for all of you, this came to part because we're seeing a lot of conversations, like we get DMs and things, and people, because of the things I've been through, I get some messages about like, how did you do it?
Yeah.
Like, what do you recommend? And I literally like put a guide together because I'm having this conversation more than I have been in the past, and I just want people, like I said, like, I want you to be prepared for whatever decision you're making. Entering a relationship, being in the relationship, ending the relationship, be prepared. You know, take the time to do what you have to do. Right. And then if you do have to exit in any way, then I would just ask that you have tried everything that you can, right? If it's a safe relationship, of course, that you have tried everything that you can. And then if after you have tried, you decide that this is not fulfilling and that you're done, then I, by all means, ask you to talk, you know, make God be with you and help you in the next steps. But I never want somebody to stay unhappy anywhere they're not if they have tried everything they can. So good luck. And send us a message if you have any questions. You're not alone. Another thing, you're not alone. A lot of women are feeling, men are going through this too. I get men messages too. You're not alone. I think you got to take responsibility also for what part you play in that. Forgive yourself if you are unhappy what decisions were made. Thank yourself because whatever decisions you made to get you there really were what helped you get to that, what helped you survive the situation. But now with clarity, you get to make the next step.
Right.
So whatever that is. So we have a lot of episodes in the past that you can go listen to that can help you. Christina and I are available to jump on a Zoom call if we need to, if you're not here in Columbus, and can I help you with what we have been through or how we can help you to your next best step.
Yeah. And in our latest book, The Journey from Who You Are to Who You're Meant to Be, actually, you dive a little bit into some of this in one of our chapters. And so I think that would also be a great resource. And as Maylin mentioned, you're not alone, and know that regardless of what you decide, you will be okay.
Yes.
It may feel like the worst pain, the worst weight, just so much happening in this moment, but understand it is a moment. It will not be your entire life. So if that is the route and the path that you are on, feel that, go through that, but understanding there will be another season outside of this moment. And if you can make some of those changes and, get back on one accord with your, significant other, as Maylin mentioned, I think that's critically important as well, because ultimately I do believe in love. I do believe in, relationships, just as long as they're healthy and respectable and in growth.
And
fulfilling. So anyways, thank you as always for listening. If this episode helped you in any way, please feel free to share it with a friend or repost it on social media. And until we meet up again, remember, it's bigger than you.
Thank you so much for listening today. We're excited and we hope that you follow us on
Instagram, True Print for Life, YouTube channel, also True Print for Life. And make sure that you share, watch our videos. Make sure that you follow us on all streaming platforms.